What if I told you that these scraps could transform into this lush garden? It's not a magic trick, it's the magic of composting. This process, as old as life itself, transforms what might seem like waste into a rich, fertile soil, a kind of black gold for gardeners. Composting is nature's way of recycling. It takes decomposed organic materials, things like coffee grounds, vegetable peels, and eggshells, and turns them into nutrient-dense soil. It's a little bit like cooking, where different ingredients mix and mingle to create something new and delicious. But instead of a stove, we use a compost bin, and instead of a tasty meal, we end up with compost. But why compost? Well, apart from turning your kitchen waste into a treasure trove for your garden, composting has several environmental benefits. It reduces the amount of waste that goes into our landfills, which are already overflowing in many parts of the world. This is important because organic waste in landfills produces methane, a greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. Composting at home can significantly reduce this. Composting also improves soil health. It enriches the soil with nutrients and beneficial microorganisms. It improves the soil structure, helping it retain water and resist erosion. This is vital in a world where good quality soil is becoming increasingly scarce. But the benefits of composting are not just environmental. It's also a deeply satisfying activity. There's something magical about watching your kitchen scraps transform into rich, dark compost. It's like witnessing a small miracle of nature in your backyard. And the best part, your plants will love it. So, whether you're a seasoned gardener or a beginner, composting is a wonderful way to enrich your garden and contribute positively to the environment. It's a little act of everyday magic that can make a big difference in the world. Composting isn't just a hobby, it's a way to contribute positively to our environment. So let's roll up our sleeves and dive into the magical world of composting. Before we delve into the composting process, it's important to understand the basics. Composting is a symphony of waste materials, each playing their part to create a nutrient-rich soil conditioner that your plants will love. But what exactly goes into this symphony? Let's break it down into its two main sections: greens and browns. Greens are the nitrogen-rich materials that provide the essential proteins for the microorganisms in your compost. These are your fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, and fresh grass clippings. Think of them as the energy drinks for your compost pile, giving it the vitality it needs to break down into nutrient-rich compost. On the other side, we have browns. These are the carbon-rich materials that provide the necessary structure to your compost. They are like the backbone of your compost pile, providing the necessary bulk for air to circulate and microorganisms to thrive. These include items like paper, dry leaves, and straw. But it's not enough to just know what goes into your compost pile. The real magic lies in the balance. Too much green, and your compost could become slimy and smelly. Too much brown, and decomposition slows down. The ideal ratio is about 2 parts browns to 1 part greens. This balance ensures a compost pile that's just right. Moist but not soggy, warm but not too hot, decomposing at a steady pace. So if you're making a salad and have some leftover lettuce and carrot peelings, those are your greens. That newspaper you were just reading? That's a brown. And the coffee grounds from your morning brew? Another green. Remember, composting is not a precise science, it's more of an art. A dance between greens and browns, each playing their part in creating the perfect compost. So don't worry if you don't get the balance just right the first time. With a little patience and practice, you'll soon be turning your kitchen waste into garden gold. Remember, composting is all about balance. Now that we know what to compost, how do we get started? First, choose a suitable location. It could be a corner of your garden or even a balcony if space is a constraint. Then, select a compost bin. A simple plastic bin with a lid and a few holes drilled for aeration works just fine. Next, start layering your compost materials. Begin with a layer of browns for carbon. These could be dry leaves, straw, or shredded paper. Follow this with a layer of greens for nitrogen, such as vegetable peels, coffee grounds, or fresh grass clippings. Remember, it's all about balance. An ideal compost pile should have more browns than greens. A good ratio is about 3 parts browns to 1 part greens. Keep adding to these layers and give your pile a good turn every week or two to speed up the decomposition process. And there you have it, your very own compost bin is ready to work its magic. Even with the best of intentions, mistakes can happen, but fear not, we're here to help you avoid them. Composting is like cooking. You need the right ingredients in the right proportions, but sometimes even the best chefs can slip up. So let's dish out some common composting mistakes and how to fix them. First on the list is using the wrong ingredients. Remember our discussion about greens and browns? Well, not all kitchen waste makes the cut. Meat, dairy, and any diseased plants are a strict no-go. They can attract pests and create foul odors. If you've accidentally added any of these, try to remove them promptly and balance out your compost with more browns. Mistake number 2, an incorrect balance of greens and browns. If your compost pile is too wet or smells bad, it might be overloaded with greens. On the other hand, if it's too dry or slow to decompose, it could do with more greens. Remember, it's all about finding that perfect balance. Thirdly, neglecting your compost. Composting isn't a set-and-forget process. It needs a little TLC. Stir your compost regularly to ensure it's well aerated. This helps speed up decomposition and prevents any unpleasant odors. Mistake 4, adding too much compost at once. Avoid the temptation to dump all your kitchen waste into the bin at once. Adding materials gradually allows for better air circulation and a more efficient composting process. Lastly, ignoring the size of your materials. Smaller pieces decompose faster. So, chop up those fruit peels, shred that newspaper, and break down those leaves. The smaller, the better. Remember, composting is a journey, not a race. You're bound to make a few mistakes along the way, and that's okay. It's all part of the learning process. After all, even the most seasoned gardeners have their off days. So, keep experimenting, keep learning, and most importantly, keep composting. With these tips, you're well on your way to becoming a composting pro. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from real gardeners who've reaped the benefits of composting. Meet Sarah, a city dweller who turned her small balcony into an oasis of greenery. Composting has been a game changer, she says. My plants are thriving like never before and I'm reducing waste at the same time. Then there's John, a retiree with a sizable backyard. I started composting 2 years ago and my garden has never looked better, he shares. It's a win-win situation. I'm giving back to the earth and reaping the rewards. And let's not forget about the Smith family. We've made composting a family activity, says Mrs. Smith. It's a great way to teach our kids about sustainability. Plus, our vegetable garden has never been more productive. As you can see, composting can truly turn your garden into a paradise. Are you ready to turn your waste into gold? We've seen how composting can transform your kitchen scraps into a rich, nourishing soil that breathes life into your garden. Not only does it give your plants a healthy boost, but it also helps us reduce waste and give back to our planet. Think about it, instead of tossing those vegetable peels, coffee grounds, and eggshells into the trash where they'll end up in a landfill, you could be using them to create something beautiful, something that nourishes the earth and brings joy to your daily life. It's a form of recycling that nature has been doing for millions of years, and now, you can be a part of it. But composting isn't just about creating a healthier garden, it's about creating a healthier planet. When we compost, we reduce the amount of waste going into our landfills and cut down on greenhouse gas emissions. It's a small act, but if we all do our part, we can make a big difference. Remember, you don't need a huge backyard to start composting. Even if you're living in an apartment with just a small balcony, you can still create your composting setup. There are plenty of options available that can fit into any living situation. And don't worry if you make mistakes along the way, that's part of the learning process. You'll soon get the hang of what works and what doesn't. And when you do, you'll see the magic happen right in front of your eyes. So, are you ready to embark on this journey? To witness the transformation of your kitchen scraps into a potent elixir for your garden? To see your plants thrive like never before? We encourage you to take this step towards a more sustainable lifestyle, to make a positive impact on the world, one compost bin at a time. And remember, there's no better time to start than now. Start your composting journey today and watch as your garden flourishes like never before.